This isn't the quesadilla that you make at 2 in the morning with a microwave. This is a real chicken quesadilla. We're gonna begin by marinating our chicken. To a bowl, I'm gonna add some Mexican oregano, a bit of coriander, cumin, garlic powder, cayenne pepper, paprika, always one of my favorite ingredients, a bit of sugar to balance out all the acidity that we're about to add in here, then a little bit of soy sauce. That's gonna give us a nice kick of umami. Then I'll slice 2 limes and add in all that juice. You can use a juicer if you want. Feels more satisfying to squeeze them by hand anyways. It's no fun to use a juicer all the time. Then we also got an orange, squeeze that in, watch for any seeds. Then we'll go in with a little bit of oil, and to finish, a pinch of salt. I'm gonna give this a quick whisk, make sure my whole marinade is well combined. I'm gonna toss on a pair of gloves here. It's an optional step, but it allows you to move faster in the kitchen. And then I'll add in my chicken. These, by the way, if you didn't recognize them already, are chicken thighs. The reason I often prefer chicken thighs over chicken breasts is because these have a lot more fat in them, so they end up being a lot more tender, and they're actually harder to overcook. Now, I'm just gonna get in there with my hands, mix this all around to make sure it's fully coated, and once it's fully submerged under my marinade, I'll cover it up with plastic wrap and bring it to the fridge to marinate while we prepare the rest of the components for our quesadillas. While our chicken's marinating, we're gonna move into making our flour tortillas. You can certainly get store-bought flour tortillas if you like, but similar to making fresh pasta at home, I think it's a total game changer to make the tortillas yourself. To make these, we're gonna start in a bowl with some all-purpose flour, a sprinkle of salt, and some pork lard. If you can't find pork lard or you wanna use something different anyways, you can get shortening or you can even use butter. I'm gonna give this a quick initial mix with my wooden spoon, just breaking apart some of that pork lard. And I wanna see it start to form these little clumps. Once it starts looking somewhat like this, I'll get rid of my spoon and get in there with my hands. The goal now is to press the fat and the flour together. You want to rub it through your fingers. This is really similar to making a pie crust. I used to help my great-grandmother once in a while to make pies. She lived till she was 101, so she was very good at making pies by then, and she taught me this technique of just sort of pushing and rolling through your fingers. And in this case, what this does, rubbing that flour into the fat, is give us a soft and flexible dough. During this process, it's going to start to look and feel a little bit like a light, fluffy sand. And if you're doing it right, when you squeeze some of it together, it'll actually hold its shape perfectly. Once our mixture looks like this, we're gonna go ahead and pour in some warm water. This water is not too hot, but it's a nice, warm, comfortable temperature, with the goal now of turning it into sort of a Play-Doh. But first, it's gonna start to look a little shaggy, like this. And it's also gonna start to get pretty heavy. I'm gonna push this around the whole bowl now to make sure I pick up every piece, and now I can transfer it onto my work surface. At this final stage, we'll knead it for about 2 to 3 minutes. This last step here is what's gonna give our tortillas that really nice, chewy consistency. And once your dough starts to look something like this, where it's not tearing when you're kneading it, you're good to go ahead and cut this up into portions. I've made enough dough here to make 4 flour tortillas, so you can use a scale if you want, but I'm just gonna eyeball it and try to cut this into 4 perfect portions. Before we let these rest for a little bit, I'm just gonna ball each of them up. What you're seeing here is a simple technique where the dough basically grips the bottom of your work surface and almost forms itself into a ball. And last but not least, I'll toss them all into a plastic bag. You can also wrap them individually with plastic wrap, and we'll let these sit off to the side for 20 to 30 minutes to rest. Our chicken's marinating, our tortillas are resting, so let's make a sauce. Really, you can make whatever kind of sauce you want, but for me, I'm thinking, how can we balance everything out? A chicken quesadilla is cheesy and fatty, so I want to cut down on all of that with something that's slightly tangy, maybe a little bit acidic, and perhaps even a little bit spicy. So here, I have chipotle and adobo, and while I'm chopping, if you didn't know what adobo is, it's basically this smoky and tangy, slightly sweet tomato-based sauce that smells and tastes incredible. I'm gonna chop these up almost into kind of a paste. I'm doing this on a mini cutting board because I don't want to cut this heat into my main cutting board. I can also just toss this whole cutting board in the dishwasher after. Once this has been chopped up into a fine paste, I'm gonna add this to my bowl along with some sour cream. You gotta have sour cream somewhere when you're having a quesadilla. A little bit of lime juice, a touch of garlic powder, but cover your ears if you don't like cilantro. A nice big pile of cilantro. Obviously, if you're one of those people where this tastes like soap, doesn't mean you can't make this recipe. Just use something else instead. You could grab some dill, some parsley. What matters most is that you find some nice fresh herbs that are gonna bring some brightness to your dish. Once my herbs are chopped, I'll add those in, along with a pinch of salt to wake everything up, a tiny bit of honey. You could also use agave here if you prefer. And then I'll mix this all together and we should get this beautifully colored herb-filled sauce. I actually want to thin it out just a little bit, so I'm gonna grab the tiniest splash of water and add some of that in until it reaches the consistency that I like. My sauce is done, so I'm gonna cover it up and toss this in the fridge while we finish our last steps. To roll out our tortillas. I'm gonna grab one at a time, close the bag, just keep letting them stay nice and happy in here. And I'm gonna begin by tossing a tiny bit of flour onto my cutting board. We wanna use just the slightest amount of flour, probably less than you even think. We're actually gonna start by pressing out our dough ball, similar to the way you'd start pressing out pizza dough. And the goal here is to get it into as round of a shape as possible. You may just be watching this video right now because you love watching cooking videos, but to those of you who are actually following along and making this right now, already you're doing an amazing job making your own homemade tortillas. So don't be upset at yourself if they're not perfectly round at the end, because even mine probably won't be perfectly round when I'm finished here. This is one of those things where you get it as close as you can, and remember that it's all going to taste the same either way. Once you've shaped it into a nice circle, go ahead and grab your rolling pin. From the bottom all the way to the top, I'm going to do a nice smooth roll. Then I'll lift and spin, and same thing on the other side. If you're ever worried about things sticking, you can always add a bit more flour under your tortilla, but know that this is really all about the amount of pressure that you're putting down on the rolling pin as you go. We're just repeating this process back and forth. Rolling one way, then rotating, and then rolling another. One cool trick as well to get a continuous roll all the way through is to continue rolling all the way past your hands and let your arms help too. That allows you to get that full range of motion all the way through the entire roll. As we roll, we're gonna continue to be more and more delicate with our tortilla. You've gotta be very gentle as you lift it up and spin it, or you will make fingerprints. This takes a lot of focus, but it's actually really fun, especially if you can get it to look like a nice circle by the end. How do all the grandmas make this look so easy? I don't get it. Once we've rolled our tortilla out nice and thin, you'll see here that it's hard to get it perfectly circular once it's thin enough, but that's okay. You'll know that your tortilla is ready when you've rolled it out basically paper thin. And when it's ready, I'll turn up the heat to about medium high on a nice heavy, wide bottomed pan. Be careful not to poke through it with your fingers, and remember to work quick. The second you have it laid out like this, bring it right over to your pan, and with no oil or anything, carefully drop it down. Immediately,